All right, brothers, welcome. Today, we are going to talk about how to gain full control over your ejaculation. Now, I am extremely versed and passionate about this topic because I struggled with it heavily, especially in this picture here. This was me in college, and I could not last more than 3 minutes in bed. I was lucky to get 5, and it absolutely destroyed my sex life, which in turn destroyed my confidence. Now, of course, this would lead me to look for a solution. The solutions I found were these right here. Stop, start, squeeze method, numbing creams, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, aka just be confident, do more foreplay, or even masturbate before sex. Now, these were all band-aid solutions, meaning they didn't actually fix the problem, which is not having control over your ejaculation, and they all lowered the quality of sex, right? So none of these worked for me, and I felt absolutely helpless. Now, the bigger problem here is that PE is the most common sexual dysfunction in men, affecting about 30 to 40% of men, and I'd say even more because the clinical definition of PE is lasting anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. I'd say the real definition of premature ejaculation is not being able to last as long as you want. If you ejaculate before you would like to, that is prematurely, right? And so I'd say it affects more like 90 to 95% of men. And reason being is because the real solutions are not taught incorrectly, and hidden behind shame, right? We feel uncomfortable speaking about these things, right? And so we're just left to using our own agencies, going to the mainstream advice, which is often trash. Now, as you guys know, if you struggle with premature ejaculation, and as I know because I did, PE is brutal. Reason being, a woman on average takes 13 minutes to reach vaginal orgasm, right? And in contrast, the average man lasts about 5.5 minutes, which is not enough for most women. Now, the gap between required porn performance and actual performance is absolutely massive. Not to mention the fact that most women can go for more than, their first vaginal orgasm, and most men would prefer to go more than 13 minutes if they could. Now, however long you want to be able to last, the goal is for you to be able to last as long as you want, which you are completely capable of. And so this disparity right here doesn't just affect so many men's sex life, but because it affects their sex life, it affects their day-to-day life as well. This not being confident in yourself sexually leads to insecurities, and insecurities leads to lower quality of life and just not having that inner peace, right? In addition, premature ejaculation is a self-reinforcing cycle, meaning if you have premature ejaculation, you likely have performance anxiety. If you have performance anxiety, it worsens your premature ejaculation. So it's a positive feedback or negative feedback loop, I guess, that strengthens over time if not consciously fixed, right? And so it's very important you don't expect it just to go away. You have to apply these things I teach you. But if you apply these things I teach you, you will have full control. And if you have full control, you will become an outlier, right? So even though this can be disheartening right here, the positive news is that if you can last as long as you want, you will outperform almost all men. I'd say 90 to 95+% of men, right? And be able to blow a woman's mind in bed. Now, how did I find the real solution? So because it is the most common sexual dysfunction and is debilitating, men are inevitably going to go out and find solutions if the mainstream ones don't work, which people have done. Right. And so I looked through Reddit, looked through the common themes of people who were actually fixing this condition, and it was a very common theme. And so I applied these solutions and they worked for me. Right. And so the more I applied the solution, the more control I got until I felt like I just had full control. And so there's always going to be more control you can have, right? No one has 100% perfect control, but as close you can get to 100% control, the better. And you will be able to make fast progress if you follow these things. And so purpose of this breakdown, reason I'm making it is because I have found the solution. It has worked for me and every other man I coach who comes through my coaching program who struggles with this, and it will work for you. And so I'm extremely excited to have whipped this up for you guys. Take out your pen and paper, get ready, because we are going to solve the problem, right? So why does premature ejaculation happen? Premature ejaculation happens when a man cannot keep his nervous system in parasympathetic control, right? To understand this, we're going to look at the process of ejaculation. Process of ejaculation, process of sex, right? Number one, arousal starts. Something turns you on, you get a stimulus, whether that's visual, physical, auditory, emotional, or just a thought. Dopamine rises, blood flows to the penis, and then you begin the experience, right? Now, during the experience, arousal builds. Breathing gets faster, your pelvic floor tightens, and your sensitivity increases. This is all sympathetic activation. Sympathetic is the fight or flight nervous system. The parasympathetic is control, calm, relax, right? And the more sympathetic you are, the closer you move to the point of no return. All that angst, all that cortisol, all that stress, all that pressure builds up and to the point where you need a release. Now, the point of no return, pretty self-explanatory, is when you get to the point where the threshold is passed and the body automatically triggers ejaculation. You can't go back. Right? Then, of course, ejaculation, pelvic muscles contract, semen is released, brain floods with dopamine, prolactin, and then the body relaxes and you have your refractory period, right? Which unfortunately, the refractory period for men is much longer than women, which is why we don't want to have premature ejaculation. So where can we intervene, right? Where does premature ejaculation happen and how can we solve it? It happens between these 2 points right here. So the goal is to create as big of a gap between these 2 points as we can. This is your actual sexual experience. This is the duration of your sexual experience. Further, we can move this away from this, the better. right? And how do we do this? Essentially, we keep the nervous system relaxed and controlled, right? And specifically, how do we do this in the case of sex? It is going to be pelvic floor health. Now, if you guys have looked into solutions before, you've probably heard of Kegels. This is taught completely wrong. But before we get into this, let's do a quick pelvic floor test so we can diagnose ourselves and know if this is actually our problem, which most of you will be if you struggle with this. First things first, we're gonna do a Kegel. By the way, this is the pelvic floor, guys. It is the muscle surrounding your anus and your penis, right? It controls ejaculation, it controls breathing, it controls posture, it controls urination. Very important muscles here. And so how you do this is I want you to imagine you were urinating. You don't need to urinate, and I don't suggest you do, especially if you have pants on, and you were trying to stop the stream of urine, right? So imagine you were urinating, and while you were doing that, you were stopping the stream, right? And so while you do this, you will likely feel a clench, a tightening, a lifting of these pelvic floor muscles, right? Go ahead, squeeze. You could release, squeeze, right? That is a Kegel. Most people can do this just fine. Number two is going to be a reverse Kegel. Now, I want you to imagine the same thing. Imagine you were urinating, but instead of stopping the stream, I want you to imagine you were creating a stronger stream as if you were trying to break the back of the toilet, right? You don't have to push 100%, but give a good amount of pressure as if you're trying to push urine out, right? So take a deep breath and relax the pelvic floor. Push that urine out. You should feel a relaxing, an expanding, a dropping of the pelvic floor. Right? Now, how do we diagnose what our problem is? If it was easier for you to feel the clench of the Kegel, if you were really good at squeezing and more difficult for you to feel the relaxing and the expanding of the pelvic floor, you likely have a tight pelvic floor. In addition, I want you to go ahead and pay attention to the pelvic floor again. You're either in a relaxed state or a slightly clenched or an extremely clenched state to where you're more towards a Kegel than a reverse Kegel. So think about your pelvic floor just naturally right now. Right? Is it more squeezed a little bit, even if it's just a little bit, or is it just completely relaxed, like as if you were doing a reverse Kegel, right? And 90+% of people who I've tried with this, especially almost 100% who have had premature ejaculation, the case is they have a hypertonic pelvic floor, right? Hypertonic pelvic floor means they are in a chronically Kegeled state, right? And this is the number one hidden cause of premature ejaculation, right? Mainstream consensus is to Kegel, which is completely wrong. This increases your sympathetic nervous system, this builds pressure, and this causes ejaculation. You literally do a Kegel when you are stimulated, and then when you ejaculate, your body Kegels, right? And so what Kegels are good for is if you have a very loose, not strong pelvic floor, which is not common, and unless you're a lot older, it can be used for ED, right? So, but most young people, age 18 to 60, it's almost always a too tight pelvic floor, right? And so this is where I was screwed up, and this is where a lot of guys just don't get the help they need, is because this is the mainstream consensus, right? And you have the stop-start method, which is that as you build up that energy, as you come closer to no point of no return, you squeeze tightly the Kegel to try to prevent the ejaculate from coming out. This is not what we want to do, because by Kegeling, you are still building up closer to the point of no return. We wanted to stay further from the point of no return and be able to control whether we reach there or not, right? So this is not going to work. It's also going to negatively affect your sexual experience. So throw that out the window. Now, reason so many people have this issue, this hypertonic pelvic floor, is because it is directly tied to the fight or flight system. And in our modern day and age, when you are stressed, anxious, alert, or in that sympathetic nervous system, the pelvic floor, along with the jaw and diaphragm, is the main place we hold this in our physical body. And so our physical reaction to stress ends up being a Kegel, a tightened pelvic floor, right? And like I said, a lot of people are just chronically stressed, and so chronically have a tight pelvic floor. This was me. I struggled with extreme anxiety, especially social anxiety in college. And once I figured out the solution, I did this test right here, I realized my pelvic floor was hypertonic, always squeezed, and I almost had an inability to relax it, which was the root of my problem. Now, why does this actually cause premature ejaculation, and why can having a relaxed one, a reverse Kegel, fix it? It is because as arousal builds, your response is to tighten, right? This is sympathetic mode. And as you tighten, as your breath gets faster, and tightening also increases sensitivity, it just edges you more and more towards the point of no return, right? And so if we can consciously fix this, keep the pelvic floor relaxed, we don't get this sympathetic activation. And also, without getting too woo-woo into it, that energy, that sexual energy that's pent up and then explodes during ejaculate can flow more freely instead of the pressure building up. Make sense? Right. And so now we're going to talk about how to actually solve a tight pelvic floor, right? Because knowing about it isn't going to solve it innately. You actually have to take action. So number one is going to be during sex. During sex, you're going to want to be conscious of keeping the pelvic floor relaxed, right? Now, I of course want you to be present in the experience. I don't need you to obsess over it. But if you feel that performance anxiety, that premature ejaculation coming, right? I want you, instead of to focus on that, put that attention and put it towards the pelvic floor, right? Take a deep breath. Very deep breath, and push out like you were doing a reverse Kegel. Now, this will be difficult during sex because, like I said, when we're stimulated, it's very hard not to squeeze, right? You know, if you're masturbating, you can be aware of this now. But when you are masturbating, especially at a fast pace, you will realize you automatically squeeze. And even for me, it's difficult to relax, right? However, if you're going a little slower, right, and you're aware of this, you can stay relaxed, right? Stay away from the point of no return. So use your deep breaths, be mindful of it. Don't squeeze your pelvic floor, right? That's what causes you to ejaculate. However, if you desire to ejaculate, I don't know if you'd be watching this video if it were the case, but if you say, hey, I want to ejaculate now and I can't, then you can squeeze the pelvic floor. The more you squeeze it, the more the pressure will ramp up and the closer you'll get to ejaculate, right? The goal here during sex is to stay in a relaxed, open state until you choose to climax, right? And so this also means you are going to want to slow it down a little bit. Take deep breaths, keep that pelvic floor relaxed. And I cannot repeat this enough because this cue is what's going to solve it for you, right? You want to be in control. You don't want the pelvic floor to be in control of you. You want to have control. Now, this is not natural. We naturally breathe fast and tighten the pelvic floor. And so this is why you need to have mindful intervention here to breathe deeply, right? And every time you forget about it, you're going to start to breathe faster. Focus, hey, slow down my breath, slow down my breath. If you have a hypertonic pelvic floor, it's going to be harder to reverse Kegel, and it's also going to be harder to reverse Kegel during sex. So we have to focus on solving this issue and creating a more of a healthy pelvic floor. The way we're going to do this is going to be, number one, mindfulness throughout the day, right? Like I said, when I was actually paid attention to this, I was chronically tight. And so because I cared so much about solving this problem, I would consciously focus on it. If I was driving, sitting at my desk, standing in line, just anytime I had a second, I would think, am I clenching right now? And if I was, I would consciously relax, do a reverse Kegel, take a deep breath. Right? This is also a great tool for just relieving stress. If you are stressed out, you are going to clench your pelvic floor. And if you clench your pelvic floor, you are going to stress yourself out even more, right? It gets you in the sympathetic state. And so if you're just stressed out in your day-to-day life, a great tool is to take a deep breath, focus on the pelvic floor. I call it pelvic breathing. It's actually something I teach in the method. And breathe deeply through your pelvis. Ground your energy, let the energy flow. Don't let it get stuck. Last one, and this one is also very important. Depending on how tight you are, you're going to want to put more importance on this, but it's going to be a stretching routine, right? This is going to be the fastest way to solve it. This is going to be actually relaxing, stretching the muscles, getting further away from a hypertonic pelvic floor. I do not have a current video public on YouTube right now for the pelvic floor routine, but I will put a link for the guy who I first started with. I just followed this routine. It is 30 minutes. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes. If you want to do 30 minutes, that's great. That's probably going to be better off, right? The more honestly, the better, but 5 to 10 minutes daily, every other day is going to be plenty. And right, so I'll pop that in the description. Use that to your advantage, right? So this is the mothership. This is going to be the biggest factor. If you can keep a relaxed pelvic floor and stay in parasympathetic mode, you are going to be able to have almost complete control over your ejaculation. And it's a skill, right? So you're gonna get better and better at it the more you do, right? The more comfortable you get. And also the longer you're able to last, the less anxious you're gonna go into sex, right? And so keep in mind, some people might have more of an immediate effects than others, but if you focus on this and you're doing this throughout the day and you're doing daily stretching, you will fix it very quickly, right? I can assure you. There are a lot of factors that are gonna go into your ability to control ejaculation during sex, right? And I want to get into those. I'm not going to go as deep into every single one of these, but I do want to cover them and let you know that these are options. And so as many of these things you can do, the better. The great thing is that all of these things not only help with premature ejaculation and lasting as long as you want, they also vastly improve your overall quality of life, right? So without further ado, let's get right into it. I put them into habits, practices, and things you can do during sex. Now, for habits, right? The inherent problem is the sympathetic nervous system being too active. And so if you in your day-to-day life can be less sympathetic, have more control over your nervous system, it is going to heavily translate into sex and vastly improve your overall quality of life, right? So some lifestyle things you could do is slow diaphragmatic breathing throughout the day. I didn't cover this before, but what diaphragmatic breathing is breathing through the diaphragm here, which is in the belly, right? You have the diaphragm, you have the lungs, and then you have the throat. You want to be breathing as low and as deep as possible, right? If you exhale long enough, it's even called a testicle breathing, which you're breathing through your pelvis. Your balls will actually move if you exhale long enough. So deep inhales through the belly and even deeper exhales through the belly. Right? And the reason we take even deeper exhales is because the way you control your state through your breath is through the duration of the inhale versus the exhale. When you take hard, fast inhales and short exhales, you are going to be ramping up the sympathetic nervous system, which is what we naturally do when we're aroused, which is why a lot of men struggle with premature ejaculation, right? For example, you're going to be spiking your cortisol, getting fight or flight system. On the contrast, if we take shorter inhales, softer inhales, deeper exhales, literally exhale as deep and as strong as possible. This is going to lower your cortisol. The more you do this in your day-to-day life, the less stress you're going to have, the better you're going to get at translating it to sex, right? Next is going to be just daily stress reduction. You got walks, meditation, right? whatever way you know works for you. If you don't know ways, I'll break it down for you. Get in nature, do something off of the screen, do something where you're just focused on what you're doing in the moment, right? Some movement, some reflection is great. Adequate sleep, absolutely massive. Again, cannot overstate this enough. Avoiding stimulants before sex, right? Stimulants get you in this fight or flight state. They are sympathetic drugs. And so if we are doing these before sex, it's going to be much harder to stay in the parasympathetic, right? And so you want to avoid these before sex for sure. And then becoming aware of unconscious pelvic tension. We kind of covered this up here, how this is just going to improve your overall quality of life. If you're storing stress in the pelvis, it is going to keep you in that fight or flight state, right? Next one, pornography. There is infinite studies and proof that pornography destroys your brain, destroys your dopamine, destroys your view of sex, destroys your ability to control how long you last in bed, whether that's lasting too long or whether that's not lasting enough, right? And so the more you can limit this, the better, guys, right? For some context, in this photo right here, I wasn't actually even going to use this for this, but this was me when I was masturbating almost daily, and this was me when I was on like a month of semen retention streak. Look at the difference in the face, the aura, right? It's absolutely insane. I'm telling you, refraining from porn and mindless masturbation is going to absolutely transform your life, right? If you are watching pornography, something you can do that will avoid the damage towards premature ejaculation is going to be changing your mindset from going to fast rush, how can I masturbate, how can I ejaculate as quick as possible, to saying, okay, how can I stay relaxed, right? I still don't recommend watching porn with this, and I'll talk about mindful masturbation over here, but just stay relaxed. Don't do death grip. This is also going to create negative patterns, create sexual dysfunctions. This is going to be massive, guys. If you're struggling with this, struggling with porn, best thing I could say is you need to transmute your energy other ways. If you are really busy, going to the gym, avoiding instant gratification, it's going to be much easier to avoid porn. This is something I help a lot of my guys with as well. And so if you feel like you just struggle with overall living a life of fulfillment, improvement, and moving towards more long-term gratification, DM me. I'm an expert at this shit, right? I completely transformed my life, and I will help you out. Next is going to be general health. Strength training is going to increase your testosterone, increase your stamina, increase your discipline, right? When I say stamina here, I mean, if you are able to last a long time and go for hours, you are going to need some strength, and you're going to need some cardio, right? And so it does become a marathon. You don't want to have a heart attack. And so if you're out of shape, but you can last for hours, it's not going to matter because you won't be able to go for hours, right? So this is also going to be massive. In addition, the better your blood flow, the better your erection. And I'll get into how erections help with this as well. Nutritious diet, keep your blood vessels clean, keep your nervous system clean, and then lower body fat. Lower body fat is also going to increase penile size, blood flow, and make it easier to go the duration, right? So I put these before and after pics because this is just lifestyle, right? Applying these lifestyle things took me from this to this, right? Not only am I able to last longer in bed, like you can't even look at this guy and be like, oh, he probably lasts longer in bed. No, you don't think about that, right? But I was just overall confident in my sexual ability, overall confident in myself as a man. I was making progress in my goals daily, and I just absolutely transformed my life. This is about a 9-month difference after I dropped out of college, right? So this is what the method does. Next is going to be practices outside of sex that are specific to premature ejaculation. So pelvic floor training, we already covered this above, but I put this in here so you guys can screenshot when I zoom out. I want to give you guys the option to do that. But again, keep that pelvic floor relaxed. You want to make sure that you do not have a hypertonic pelvic floor, right? You want to be doing things outside of sex, outside of just mindfulness. This one gets interesting, and this one goes pretty deep, right? This is going to be mindful masturbation. What is mindful masturbation? Mindful masturbation is masturbation with the goal of attaining sexual mastery, attaining more control of yourself instead of it just being a means to an end of pleasure and ejaculation, right? It's a means to an end of sexual mastery. You want to bring yourself to about 80 to 90% to point of no return, right? This is going to still be stimulating. You're going to have high sexual energy. You're not going to be at the point where you're about to go over and then you come back, about to come over, abusing your dopamine. And so how you do this is you stay calm. The goal is not pleasure here. The goal is sexual control. And funny thing is, it's extremely pleasurable when you get this down, which I'll cover right here. So you're taking deep breaths. You're almost mimicking the same thing you're going to be doing in the bedroom. You're keeping that pelvic floor relaxed. You're using a slow tempo instead of fast friction, and you're rewiring your dopamine around sex, right? The more times you're able to, without porn, without even fantasizing, in the beginning you might inevitably fantasize, but your mindset is clear. It's almost like a meditation. And sexual energy is extremely powerful, guys, right? And so if we're able to, instead of just let it go to the mind where it goes to lust and it needs to shoot out because it's so powerful, if we're able to control it and guide it through our body, it's going to be freaking phenomenal, which gets into Qigong. Qigong is a huge aspect of the method. This is going to be the power presence practice. And what this is energy control. Qi, energy, gong, control. We can all agree we have energy inside of our body, right? We're not running on gas. We're not running on electricity. We're running on Qi, life force, whatever you want to call it, right? We also have this sex energy. We've all felt it before, the drive to have sex, whether that comes in the form of lust, whether that comes in the form of just drive in general. This is our sex energy, and it is extremely powerful. Now, this sex energy is stored in the pelvis, right? And when it builds up, it ejaculates. And so the goal with this is going to be during sex, if we're able to take that built sex energy, because that's when sex energy is at our highest, and breathe it through the body instead of letting it store down here, we're not only gonna be able to last longer, but we're gonna be a lot more present. It's going to be a lot more enjoyable. It's gonna be a lot more connecting and loving with our partner. And we're gonna be able to just last pretty much as long as we want. And so how we do this needs its own video, but it's going to be, you're inhaling the energy down the front of the body, right? So when that energy is high, just inhale, and you can imagine a stream of energy going down the front through the solar plexus, down the belly button, into the pelvic floor, right? And then it pulls up down here, and then exhale the energy up through the spine. Now, the key here is the energy can't move if the pelvic floor is squeezed and clenched, right? You can kind of imagine it. The pelvic floor is like a dam for the energy. And as this energy builds, it explodes out, right? And so if we can keep that relaxed and keep that energy flowing, you are going to be doing great. Here's a little image of this here. Exhale through the back, inhale through the front. Right, it's called microcosmic orbit. And Eastern traditions, philosophy, religions are much more in tune with this, which is why they have much lower case of premature ejaculations, and they're just much more based when it comes to sexual energy, etc. Regardless, let's get into the last one. So PE, I guess both premature ejaculation and penis enlargement are called PE, but this is specifically penis enlargement, right? What this is pumps, extenders, clamps, manuals. You can very efficiently and efficiently make progress in size. I would not be telling you this and attaching my face to this if this did not work. You can look up the subreddit at Getting Bigger. You will see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men actively growing their size with these effective methods. I've gotten size. Everyone who I recommended to and tries it safely and correctly gets size, and their minds are absolutely blown, right? And the reason I'm throwing this into the premature ejaculation is for twofold. Number one, when you are doing PE, you do need to be erect. And so this is going to be a great time to practice your mindful masturbation, right? Not lusting while you're doing this. In addition, the more size you have, the slower you can go while still stimulating, right? So a big part of being able to last as long as you want is going to be being able to slow it down when you need. Almost no one is going to be able to have constant pounding stimulation without ejaculating. So there are going to be times when you get closer to that point of no return where you're going to have to go slower. Now, if you are lacking size here, and I'm only telling you this because I'm giving you a solution, I don't want to discourage anyone. This works. You should do it if you want more size, right? You can go slower while still stimulating both yourself and your woman. And so I highly recommend optimizing your size, whether that's getting Cialis, also very safe and effective, lowering body fat, or using the pumps, extenders, clamps, and manuals. And if you guys are interested in this, you can DM me on Instagram. You can DM me the letters PE, and I will send you a guide that will get you started safely and effectively, completely for free. All right, so that's always an option there. All right. Last but not least, we have during sex, habits we can do during sex. Number one is going to be breathing. This is probably the simplest and most effective thing you could do. Our breath controls our nervous system. If you are breathing slowly and deeply, you are going to be activating the parasympathetic, which is going to allow you to last much longer. Like we talked about, long, deep exhales, right? You don't want to hold your breath to let that pressure build. You want to be in flow state with your breath and with your energy, right? Great thing you could do here, especially go slower, match the breath with a thrust. And if you ever do get to the point where, you got too close to the point of no return and you have to pause, that's okay. Pause. Take a deep exhale. This is going to allow your energy to reset, flow it back through the body instead of letting it get all pent up down to the pelvic floor, and reset, right? Pelvic floor control during sex, already discussed. You want to keep it relaxed. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be unnatural, but it's going to also be how you solve this problem. Next, you're going to have arousal management, right? Slow down your thrust speed. You do not have to go pound, pound, pound. The only men who have to go pound, pound, pound are going to be the ones who don't know how to stimulate women mentally. If you are a good lover, you are good at talking, you are good at controlling the energy, very confident, know how to seduce a woman, you can almost stimulate them more when you are going slow, especially if you are in a relationship and you have a partner where there's a lot of love and connection involved. This is going to be where you build most of that, right? Of course, there's always a time to let your primal instincts go. Okay to have a good balance, right? But this, especially if you struggle with premature ejaculation, is going to be a necessity. Focus on the experience, right? Be present, make eye contact, focus on the energy going through your body, take deep breaths, talk to your woman or man if you swing that way, right? Be present in the experience. This is why anxiety is very maladaptive, not just for the fact that it causes ED and premature ejaculation, but it also makes you a lot more less present and confident in the experience, right? And so these things are all, you see how they're all kind of interconnecting now. Overall sexual confidence, ability to last as long as you want. You have the size, you have the ability to seduce, right? They all intertwine. And if you have these down, you are going to guarantee both you and your partner have a great experience, and you're also going to guarantee you are her best, which is very important for her and also very, very important for you. Last aspect is going to be partner communication. Talk to your partner, right? Let her know know your goal with this. A lot of times you are going to have to take charge and control the tempo of the interaction. It's going to be a lot harder if she's not on the same page as you. Let her know that you are in control, what you're practicing, and as you get better at this skill, she is going to benefit greatly from it. I've never had a negative experience from being more open with a woman about this because I come about it confidently, right? I have no shame about it because you shouldn't, whether that's talking about penis enlargement or, trying to last longer or, having non-ejaculatory sex, anything. Right? Have communication, say it confidently. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Last thing I want to cover is going to change your mindset from means to an end to creating a bond with your partner. Whether this is just being more mindful and creating a connection with your partner, lasting longer, or even non-ejaculatory sex, which I am a huge fan on. In the West, we are very brainwashed to think that the whole point of sex is ejaculation, whether that's through porn conditioning, whether that's just societal conditioning. But in reality, ejaculation is usually the worst part. Maybe it's the best part for a couple seconds, but that means the experience is over. Your sexual energy is gone. You have less attraction to your woman. You feel tired. When you contrast that with non-ejaculatory sex, when you keep that energy within you, right, you're able to last as long as you want, give her the experience you want, you have the experience you want, and then stay supercharged, feel like a superhuman. That is really awesome. But this does take practice. You have to be somewhat decent at Qigong, because if this energy gets so pent up and it doesn't get released, you're going to feel anxious. But if you know how to do Qigong, channel that energy through the body, you can literally use it to energize you and feel like superhuman. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out. You can go ahead and take a screenshot of this. This is a full masterclass, right? If you guys do these things, you'll have no problem. Some might take some of you longer than others, but the more you can apply these things, the faster you'll be able to fix it. You're just gonna get more and more in control of your sexual energy. And so in this, I just covered one aspect of the sexual mastery method. And the sexual mastery method is just one aspect of the evolved method. You have the physique sculpting system, the mind forge framework, the sexual mastery method, and the power presence practice, right? Those are the 4 pillars. These 4 pillars, every man should have full confidence in them. If you have full confidence in all of these areas, you are going to be abundant in dating, abundant in career, abundant in fulfillment. You are going to be able to tackle the world like a strong masculine man. And the great thing is that we are all capable of getting these things. It just takes effort and the decision that say, hey, I'm going to actually do things that are going to benefit my life, right? The return on investment you get from all of this stuff is absolutely huge. I went from absolutely brutally depressed, 2 out of 10 confidence to 10 out of 10 confidence, where now I'm able to spread my purpose, talk confidently about this topic, not giving a fuck what anyone else thinks, right? And so if you are interested in learning this method, first thing I will recommend is go watch the full masterclass. This will give you a full understanding of the full method. It's a 4-hour video, packed with value. I can guarantee it will blow your mind. If you're even more serious and like, hey, I'm ready to take full control of my life, I want to have full confidence and involve in all areas, go ahead and book a call with me. I'll put a link in the bio, and I'll also put a link in the description. We'll hop on a call, see what you're struggling with, see how the method can help, see if we're a good fit, and we'll go from there. Otherwise, boys, I wish you guys luck. I wish you guys abundance. I wish you guys success in your dating life. Every man deserves to have full confidence, full sexual confidence, and a great dating life. And almost all men are capable of it if they just put in the work. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or concerns. You can also DM me on Instagram. I answer all my DMs. But I love you guys. Until next time, peace.